Gumayusi dance. And who is going to have the final dance on today's match? That is the question. Also, a big question, you know, the Poppy meta, it is denied here. The Draven meta for Gumayusi also denied.
A lot of Zeri push, you know, Zeri counter, soft counter pushing lanes removed here with Poppy's gone, obviously very strong. Singed gone. T1 are fishing for it. They want that Zeri first pick, and I think Gen.G will very likely have to ban it. They take away the Yuumi. They're daring T1 to play this into potentially a Sivir response from Ruler. Kalista gone, Draven gone here.
Or into Lucian Ami.
Now, T1's
Ruler.
Yeah, and T1 have not prioritized the Sylas when it's been available, and they will actually give the Gwen first pick over to Zeus. Now, there should be not a surprise to anyone who's been following T1 as of late and how we've seen top teams dominate with Gwen. And her win rate, I think, tells a lie about where her power level is at the hands of a player like Zeus at the highest level. So difficult to win the matchup into Gnar. But if there's one player you could trust, it's probably him.
Yeah. There were some changes to Gwen on this patch. Didn't seem to matter. She almost seems to be stronger. As now Lucian is selected, they don't have to pick Nami here. They can take it third. So what is going to be the selection here? They can go for Gnar. If they want to have that matchup into Gwen.
They can also take something like a Trundle here if they want to. If they want to try to snowball the Lucian lane. We don't know what their lane opponents will be just yet. So even though normally you don't want to take the Nami with the Lucian because you want to get another power pick, they know that this is going to be the duo they want, period, regardless of matchup. Want to get a little bit more information about what the rest of the comp is going to be here for T1 before they decide to lock in a jungle pick, potentially here, or the Gnar. So Gnar seems like the safer answer now, considering that it is a Aphelios Lulu, a lane that can be very frustrating to snowball super hard with the jungle pick, especially on red side. So my money's on a Gnar lock in here.
Both teams just say, Zeri who? Like, yeah, we don't care about that.
Not without
we don't want to play Zeri, and Akali is the selection here. And
no, this is likely top.
Yeah, for Doran in that top lane.
Very interesting to see the Akali counter into Gwen. We haven't seen it very often as a counter pick on red side because most teams are not picking the Gwen first right now. They're looking for Gnar priority, Sylas priority. Sylas, again, completely out of this draft. Don't think it's going to be in here at all. And as a result, you know, as Gen.G here, you're like, well, we will get the Akali early. We'll look for that counter pick. We'll start to thin out that jungle pool. Oner has not shown the same sort of flexibility that Peanut has in terms of a jungle champion pool this season. So taking away his Lee Sin early here, now the Xin Zhao also removed.
Yeah. It is a sign of respect, too, because Oner's Lee Sin is kind of just incredible. So to take that out in the first round is definitely showing a sign there to Oner. But as you mentioned, you know, it does raise question now about what is he going to play with now Wukong off the board as well. We could see Viego bans. Will we even see Sylas, Zeri, and Gnar be addressed here in the ban?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see the Sylas or the Gnar anymore because Akali is very likely going top. And you know, the Gnar was somewhat discouraged by the fact that Faker can still play the Sylas, obviously, here, even though he hasn't really prioritized that so far this season. T1 have found their wins elsewhere on the map. As we're seeing this jungle pool thin out significantly, it might just be a Trundle ban here in the final slot. No, it will be the Vi instead, actually. Very deep dive with the Akali, with the Lucian damage. I think it's a pretty reasonable ban. The Trundle is not going to be as useful in mid-game skirmishes outside of the early game. And not something they necessarily pick up here against the Gwen either.
You can pillar Aphelios, but they don't have a lot of hard engage. And
well,
this is one way to shore that up, right? You, at the moment, before the Skarner, they had Tidal Wave. Other than just sending in your players to dive without any setup. So Skarner is going to be the choice. I think Master Yi into Skarner is not the choice.
It's just been a bit of a meme for T1 since we hit patch 12.13. They like to hover it. Something like an Udyr or a Hecarim into this can help outpace the game here for T1. A lot of power on top side too in a matchup where Zeus could try to control. And Twisted Fate, similar idea, right? You can try to make that global impact on the top side of the map where the Akali counter pick comes through. And they might just go all in on the Udyr I was mentioning before with this and really just try to outspeed Gen.G through this game and keep them at an arm's length in the later parts of things while the Aphelios grows into that 2-item spike. Similar idea here with the Nocturne. We've seen Owner play before, can completely shape team fights by just turning the lights off. 4-1 so far this season, the Nocturne. It's been very niche, but it has been very successful.
Yeah, I mean, if you time Paranoias correctly, as you mentioned, it can just be insane. Now, what is the choice here for Chovy into Twisted Fate? Maybe something like a LeBlanc? You don't really have any engage outside of the Skarner right now.
Yeah, it's really tricky.
Silas still available.
I mean, Silas is one of those old-school Twisted Fate counter picks where you match the rotations, you steal the Destiny Gate away. And since Silas is still open here, and, you know, you have a Lucian, doesn't feel bad that you're going double magic damage top and mid here with the Akali and the Silas. You have Skarner for some really nice picks and Nami setups with the Tidal Wave. And later on in the game, the Twisted Fate is going to be very relevant because you have Nocturne for long-range engage, you have Rapid Fire Cannon gold cards to catch Lucian, so his cleanse is something that we're going to have to really keep our eyes on here. Because the biggest problem for mid to late game Lucian has always been that while he's trying to look for a pick, he sometimes gets caught himself. Ruler has been so good at walking that line, he has absolutely been our best late game Lucian player. But with Twisted Fate gold cards on the other side, you've got a Lulu. Who is he realistically going to be able to find kills onto in the later parts of the game? I think that job is mostly going to be relegated to Doran on the Akali this game around. Such an exciting draft here, Valdez. Very much a far cry as well from everything else we've seen this week. This is its own T1 Genji specific draft. It's not really attached to the meta. It's just based on the bans that came through for these two teams' strengths. Love to see this.
Yeah, it always kind of gets a little bit down and interesting when we get two teams that are at this level and are relatively evenly matched. I'm a bit terrified of Ruler getting his hands onto the Lucian pick again. That has been, I mean, outside of the Callista, has been the scariest thing that I've seen him play. And he has multiple highlights on that one, so we'll see how it works out. I think T1 have a difficult draft to play out. I think there is a lot of finesse within this in terms of side laning, in terms of how you play out team fights. There's not much of a front line at all, and you've got a couple of carries that need some time to get online.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be a very measured early mid-game here for T1 Valdez.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we have it. Game 1. Let's go. I heard a drum again. We did see Joe Marsh earlier today. And I would assume
I just put 2 and 2 together, Valdez.
Yeah, I think that might be him.
Pretty good chance. He's now our official.
I didn't see him with a drum.
Yeah, he wasn't with it, but, you know, doesn't necessarily mean it wasn't just being held for him. He is true. He is based CEO of T1.
True.
So, you know, he's got somebody to carry his drum.
Doesn't necessarily carry that drum himself.
Yeah, why would he carry that?
Until he plays the drum.
Yeah, which
then he has to hold it.
Well, or rest it on his lap or something like that.
Maybe someone else should hold it for him.
So let's talk about these comps a little bit more in depth here, because for T1, they have both power in the mid game with this Twisted Fate Nocturne with the ults they have. They could dive the backline, they could punish Ruler. But they also have to be careful because, as you mentioned, they don't have a traditional front line. You know, Ruler is going to have that Gale Force power spike in the mid game where he can assassinate basically anybody on the side of T1. You know, with the exception of the Gwen and the Nocturne, everyone else is pretty vulnerable, in fact. And as a result, some of your big strengths here normally with Twisted Fate and Nocturne in the mid game aren't really as powerful this time around, because you have to be careful, of course, of ulting as owner into a Skarner who can then grab you and actually then assassinate you. I think the game is going to kind of be shifted in terms of its power towards the later parts, where the Nocturne and Twisted Fate will be so good against the Lucian in the late game that's really where we're putting our focus on these two champions later on. Whereas traditionally, you know, it's more of a mid-game situation.
Yeah. Well, we're just taking a look at some of the champion stats here. Gen G, not a single pick that they have chosen for this game has sustained a loss yet in this season. Again, I think they only have one loss on the season. That was to T1, so kind of makes sense. The side of T1, I believe I saw 2 first picks for this season. Kind of funny that Faker only picking up the TF now, but it hasn't necessarily been meta, as Lucian Nami actually on a bit of a losing streak. That's coming off the back of yesterday, where we did see heavy committal to the Lucian Nami by Damwon Kia, who did suffer 2 losses to KT.
Yeah, notice that Gen G wasn't on that list.
Yeah, they're not going to be on that list.
These 2 teams are in a tier so far above the rest of the LCK. Because right now, Damwon Kia is in 3rd place, but Live Sandbox is knocking on the door, right? But there's like an invisible layer of 5 teams between T1 and Damwon Kia. That's like how ahead they are right now. So we're putting up like DRX's stats right now over here. I'm like, well, how relevant is that really at this moment in time with these 2 teams being so much stronger?
Yeah, it's very true. Nobody really compares to these 2 teams right now, as Guma's trying to get the trade back, but it was a relatively nice trade there by Ruler and Lehens onto Keria. Peanut here, level 4, looking for a bit of a play onto Faker, who does have the gold card. Will use that onto the Skarner. And CHOVY was being pushed in a bit here by the range, of course, of the TF. And now I suppose as good a time as any to show that TF is currently 13-2 up on Silas.
I feel like it's kind of funny that the timing of these stats have come up at such awkward moments, like when Ruler had an insanely good trade right after they showed that the Lucian Nami is on a losing streak. Okay, Zeus.
Yep, they do know that Peanut is heading up to the top side, so Zeus just easily backs away. He's not baited into this fight. Actually takes a much better trade at the end of the day. Speaking of stats, Doran has only lost once on Akali.
Yeah, he's only played 10 games of it, which I know kind of sounds like a lot when you're thinking about this meta, but...
Okay, Zeus has Ignite, so Doran really got to play it a bit safe here.
The early game, obviously, for Gwen Akali is a trading game for the Gwen, where you try to get the health to a nice spot, so when you hit your level 6, you can still continue to duel against the Akali. It might even be able to all-in with your range advantage. It's much more complicated to play it out as the Akali when 6 is hit. Once a few items come through here for Doran, it's going to be very difficult, actually, for the Gwen to be able to actually compete, because she could just go Shrouded, continue to use her shurikens, and start doing a trading pattern that's very difficult for Zeus to counter. So the early parts, well played here from Zeus so far. We'll actually take an early teleport and continue to try to further that lead on the top side and force Doran to back here and lose minions while he teleports. And really well played from Zeus so far in terms of that laning. Comes back with a Doran's ring, refillable, extra health. Just wanting to further this lead as long as possible in the early parts of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the player matchup, as we already mentioned, I think Zeus is going to be pretty comfortable. Even though Doran is quite the strong player, Zeus is Zeus after all. This bottom lane is very interesting. You know, coming into this series, there is a lot of information that both teams have on each other, and I'm sure that T1 have been preparing a lot for Lucian Nami, because Ruler and Lehens, they get their hands on this very often, and they look incredibly dominant, very confident. So you can prepare something into this, and the preparation ended up with Aphelios Lulu, which on paper I was like, you know, it can trade decently, but so far it's actually been pretty... It's been pretty nice in the 2v2.
The 2v2 is really nice, because the good thing about this for T1 is that, okay, Keria is going to get hit by an Aqua Prison as owner shows up. I'm always wary about going on a long color point in a game like this. We're reaching breaking points here. Level 6s are getting hit. But
have some time.
The Lulu can just continually Glitter Lance, and obviously Aphelios isn't able to do the same amount of damage as Lucian does with his passive, but with Calibrim he can trade pretty aggressively, and Nami is not really going to be able to get chances to proc Electrocute in this matchup very well. And if you overextend and get Gravidomed, you can just die. You won't actually win the all-in, especially with Lehens running Ignite here. They're heal-less in this lane, so with heal for Gumayusi, it's really hard for Ruler and Lehens.
Exhaust, right?
Yeah, sorry, he took Exhaust instead of a heal, right? He's heal-less.
Okay.
Is what I said, but yeah. I know that kind of came out.
You did say Ignite, though, so I was like, whoa.
Yeah, so
I'm missing something.
He's heal-less, there's no Ignite also. Like, it's a heal-less lane, and they don't have Ignite. It's like, Ruler didn't take heal, Lehens didn't take heal instead, so they have neither heal nor Ignite. That is what I am getting at here. Gumayusi and Keria have both, however, so you can't all-in. And so if you just kind of play it slow as T1 and slowly, forcefully push that lane forward, use the power of the Glitter Lance and keep trading, it's hard for Ruler and Lehens to actually have a whole lot of power, while their jungler is basically a wet sack before 6 as well. You know, like, Skarner, he doesn't do a whole lot. You got a flash out of
That's an interesting way to put it, but yes, I do agree with you.
Oh, I mean, have you ever seen Skarner run at somebody pre-6 and like,
oh, Ruler gonna face check that one. Insta cleanse on the polymorph, has to flash too. Faker's in the bottom lane, and I think Lehens is just dead meat. Down he does go, and first blood comes in as Chovy is just going to Destiny into mid. That he did steal, but excellently set up here by T1's bottom lane.
Yeah, so getting a kill this early onto the Aphelios feels amazing for T1's composition. And unfortunately for Ruler, he's now going to be zoned away from some CS significantly without the Nami there, who didn't have 6, by the way, for even Peel. Faker can stay here. He can force a bigger rotation. Owner has ultimate now, and it's just a 4-man bottom side, basically. I mean, there's nothing you can do as Ruler or Lehens here in this situation. You're going to lose so much farm.
It's just crazy. I mean, how do T1 are doing to Gen G what Gen G have done to every other team in the LCK? They come in here and they're like, no, like, we got you figured out. I don't know how this keeps happening. Again, it's still very early on in game number 1, but it's still a really early, huge lead here for T1 early on in game number 1. So
now, Herald, of course, did go over to Peanut, so Gen G will pick that one up, but it's very difficult at this moment in time to utilize that power. At least Gen G with the back timing from Gumayusi will, you know, stave off some of that CS lead bottom side. They will get this Drake, so Drake lead will go Gen G's way. It's not going to be a Mountain Soul. We know that one already. We'll see what it ends up being, but before level 6 for Skarner, it's just really difficult. And Skarner, you know, Peanut just came and caught some of those minions in mid as Keria is going to check this one out. We'll see this, of course. Let's go back to the successful kills here. No vision. Ruler just walks up to this, and it's, you know, a lot of teams don't actually do this. You have no vision, but Ruler just gets completely caught. It's a terrible trade for him if Faker is not here, but because Faker is here, Lulu dies. And now he loses a ton of CS, is zoned away from his turret.
Yeah, the Nami is going to be punished.
Sorry, Nami, yes.
Down there in the bottom side. And you could see that Ruler was like, oh, they could be in this brush. Because he put that, he like tentatively put that ward into the brush, like very slowly. He puts it on the edge. It like doesn't even really get into that brush. So like, why even take the risk? Especially with a TF on the board and it's Faker, right? Like the response from him was instant. He was bought the second that fight was breaking out. If you've ever seen that guy Micro, he is basically looking at all 3 lanes at the same time while CSing. So, you know, if there's a guy you want playing TF, it's probably him.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been a very nice start here for T1. The Lucian Nami has been totally just made irrelevant so far.
And as we've talked about a lot, especially in our first series, nice trade here for Ruler. Keria going to eat a ton of damage. Here comes Skarner.
And Guma does have Flash and Gale Force already. As now the teleport is coming in, and the paranoia is enough to get this down. And Ruler's just going to be sniped from so far away. As Guma just going to collect easily another kill.
And this time it's on to Ruler, so this time he can't stay and try to shore up farm and try to continue to get experience. This time he is just out of the lane. And the power of Lulu Nocturne on display here as he instantly gets wild growth after ulting the backline. A massive turn. And T1 can always trade up in terms of members being in a skirmish because they have these 2 ultimates. We talked about how it might not be that powerful this stage of the game to use those ultimates because of all the counterplays, but when Gen G start the play first, then you get to respond with this, and your defensive follow-up ultimates here are so powerful. As Ruler goes for this trade, Peanut's down here, and it looks like, okay, we could probably make this work.
Gale Force.
Gale Force, and also, like, he was so far away, he had so much space to dodge the tidal wave. Cleanse gets used here from Ruler, but it's Infernum on that Moonlight.
It's Peanut that's too close to Ruler that actually makes the AoE hit Ruler to make sure that the kill actually happens. Just kind of unfortunate, but yeah, it just felt very forced. You know, the Skarner so far has gotten 0 value, and this is so different from what we've seen Peanut do to other teams where he picks up the Poppy gank spot all the time. Obviously, that's on blue side more often than not. But so far, he's just had no effectiveness in this game. He did get this Rift Herald, as you did mention.
Yeah.
But everybody is here from T1, and even a teleport is going to be used.
They might actually be able to stop this charge.
Oh man, this is just insane!
Yeah, they just stop it. Now it does of course require that teleport you mentioned from Zeus, so it's not a free stop of the Rift Herald. It does come at the cost of some tempo, as we're going to have the lane swaps come through here to the mid lane temporarily. Chovy goes bottom side. Lehens is going to back here. Oh man, even gets denied by the Calibrum. The lead that T1 has right now is 3,000 at 13 minutes. I have a bad feeling about Gen.G's averages after this series for round 2. But look, the early game here for Gen.G is not going to be strong, obviously, when the lane is played out this well from Guma in Keria in the early parts. Obviously, early game Gwen into the Akali, amazing. And Faker gets away with that free Destiny Gate bottom while Chovy is back.
Yeah.
And it's just those tiny things alone that lead to such a massive lead here for T1. But it's an Aphelios into a Lucian. He's already got a Gale Force. Use the Gale Force to survive. That's how much of a lead he had. As Peanut will be seen by this ward.
Zay's totally fine. Doesn't have flash, so he has made trips up to the top side multiple times, but Zeus has just played it out perfectly both times. Not going to put himself into danger. Is up. He has gotten his back in and his teleport back in the lane. Does have his item before Doran does. And yeah, I think, you know, you said it with the Skarner, but also with the Nocturne. Both of these junglers, they want to farm to level 6. So what happens is they do not have a part in the bottom lane. We've seen so many games that are like 3v3, 4v4, 5v5 in the bottom lane. But this game was all 2v2. And then the Aphelios Lulu was able to take a 2v2 victory this hard.
Yeah.
Until, of course, we did have the, you know, the TF coming bot and the rest of that. But even before the intrusion by the other players, it was still Guma and Keria dominating the lane. And like I said, I think a lot of it is the preparation for the Lucian Nami.
Absolutely. I also think that Lulu into Lucian has been a great response we've seen several times so far this season, even by weaker teams, to usually less strong effect, but to a decent effect, right? And the laning phase with the Glitter Lance, the pressure that Gumayusi puts on with his trading with his Calibrum early on in the lane in those very first few levels, he just played it out so well. He prepped himself for success, knowing that Peanut will make no impact pre-6, and they don't need owner's help down there. And unfortunately, Skarner hasn't been able to do anything, as here comes a dive.
This is 5v1. Everybody from T1 is top. Every single player. And now, Faker's just going to TP bot to make sure they don't lose too much, but they will also get the first turret blood in the top lane. And this is with the second Rift Herald. So they're going to push in more. Chovy has to TP to the top side. He can't even get value in the opposite lane, as the Gwen Needles will be stolen here, and the charge will come in, but it's still another win for T1.
Let's not forget, Gen.G's Rift Herald was denied by T1. So even though it was a Herald for a Herald, in terms of picked up Heralds here, and the second one went to T1, so no plates, Gen.G ended up trading way down on the exchange. Not only that, but Twisted Fate was allowed to actually push mid as well for free during all of this, because he was able to teleport to catch the wave and grab extra value. So being ahead on the play here for T1 macro-wise means Chovy has to respond, expend his teleport, and then we'll get nothing out of it, in fact, and won't be able to defend the charge, won't be able to defend the turret. As T1 just have such a good read on this new dive meta. Like, we saw it earlier this week, 5-man bottom side, right? And now we're seeing T1 kind of do it on both sides. Yeah, we saw it yesterday. And, like, T1's now doing it on bottom, they're doing it on top. They have Twisted Fate, they can return to lane very quickly. And this is the team that has built their entire legacy this year on smart cross-map plays and good macro. You give them an edge like this, and they're going to take more. This Hex Tech Soul, Gen.G have a 2 Drake lead. That's the one thing that's in their corner right now.
Yeah. I am simultaneously flabbergasted, but also not surprised in the slightest that this is happening. I'm like, yeah, I mean, of course. It's almost like T1 were, I don't want to say purposefully inting, because they definitely were not, but it's almost like they were trying to hide everything until the Gen.G match. And then they're like, okay, now we're going to pull out all the cards. TF Nocturne's coming out. We've got an answer for Lucian Nami. We don't need to show this against KT, DRX, Dom1, anyone else. We'll just wait for Gen.G. And here it is.
Well, it's like, It just makes so much sense as Faker's going to ghost for this gold card. Guma and Carrier are coming down.
We got Owner in as well. As you can see, a ton of damage goes down on a Faker, though. Incredible trade back. I think he was not expecting that amount of damage. Still has the stopwatch.
Yeah, and
could have used it, but did not expect to die.
Chovy is pushing top here, so, you know, unfortunately this turret is not very low or anything like that, so it's not going to be a cross-map turret that he'll pick up here, but he will crash this wave in to deny some CS. From the side of T1. It's a trade back, so failed dive, arguably, here, in terms of what it means overall. But the tempo lead that it still helps T1 facilitate is very nice here. Chovy will get the entire turret. T1 are not interested in splitting up and doing traditional laning this game. And T1's dives in these 5-mans, 4-man bot, the dive top side, the 5-man we saw there, almost feels like you said, you're both flabbergasted by it, but it also makes sense. It's like the discovery of gravity. You're like, wow, that's both so incredible, but also, how did nobody see this before? Because so much of this meta is, okay, we're going to watch Faker's first-person view here.
This is Doran's, actually.
Or Doran's, actually, yep. From watching Faker's over the shoulder there, and Doran's pissed, but he will trade back the kill.
It's like, oh, well, I killed him. That's kind of his reaction.
Okay, Guma.
Culling. Does come out. Gale Force available for Ruler, but not necessarily the same impact that we have seen him be able to have in other games.
So much of this meta, Valdez, has been a Gnar sitting topside being like, you can't dive me, you can't do that, or an Orin sitting topside, you can't dive me, can't do that. Sometimes a Sejuani up there. But when it's an Akali, you can do that. You can dive that. You can force that. And when you have a Nocturne Twisted Fate composition, it's very easy. T1 just getting lots of leads around the map here, snowballing advantages. And yeah, Gen G, they made a cross map happen. Doran picked up a kill here, but the Aphelios is just riding his way to 2 items. He's close now.
That's really the thing, and he's going to be incredibly survivable against pretty much anything except Skarner. So as long as he can avoid Peanut, who did go Predator, by the way, I think that is the right choice. We have seen a lot of phase rush Skarner in recent days. As I'm going to have to hold that thought, as they really do not like this Akali, do they? They just going on and dives and burning down his Doran. Down he will go to the red buff of Owner and the red smite, no doubt, as that is enough, and that is right before the Hextech Drake for this Hextech Soul that is on this map.
Guma didn't have to ult. He's got control of this choke point here. This could be a disastrous fight for Gen G if they try to force it.
Chovy's trying to go 1v1 here. Needles going both ways, but guess who's got the better Needles? It's not Silas in this case, but Peanut is coming on in, chilling spot onto Zeus, turns around, and it looks like T1 are just going to leave him to die.
They should be able to sack him for the Drake, and objective successful here for T1. Deny soul point. Obviously would have liked to win out better on that trade and or have your Gwen survive. But you still end up walking away with the Drake. Gen G pick up a little bit of gold in their pockets here. But Gen G will need to do more than defensive trading or kills in a side lane to win this game. They will have to at some point win a 5v5 fight. And everything we talked about with the Twisted Fate versus the Lucian with the Nocturne dive capabilities will come true here when we get later on into this game. Like, it's already been very successful at diving the backline, but how can Lucian ever be able to trade or actually set up for neutral objectives when it's a 5v5 scenario when you could do this, when you could be this deep, this far into the backline? As Doran burns down right before the objective.
Yeah, not even red buff, just the smite.
Yep.
Saves does get caught, I think, because Chovy actually does a nice job of baiting him into the fight. Goes pretty deep this time, and the stopwatch gets him here.
Yeah. And the stopwatch buys enough time here, Impale comes through, the rest of the team comes over because they're already trying to group for the Drake. Those that before he even gets Impaled, Faker's like, well, I'm out of here. I'm going mid. Just not even interested. I can't save you, man. But we got the Drake. That's what we really wanted.
Destiny comes out, immediately spots Peanut. It's going to be huge. Peanut is already in trouble trying to find angles. As TP behind them, Peanut's still looking for the angle. As the TP from Chovy not going to get much down. They do get the flash out of both Faker and Carrier. So still a win, I suppose.
Going to K-Ram here as everybody shows up. Everybody's dropping their teleports on the Rift. Chovy in the side lane, though, is the only one outside of this, so getting a little bit of value himself personally. This is what Chovy does, man. He never gives up a CS. Will Destiny gate his way over to grab that Gromp. Never give up a Gromp.
He has a Chovy level of CS right now, and I mean, the Sylas is going to be fed regardless of basically not doing much in the game outside of farming, so that's basically the Chovy effect. Faker obviously has made many more map plays and helped out his team a lot more.
Yeah, Faker has generated global gold for his team, whereas Chovy has been able to at least get some items online here. He has a very early Zonias with all that extra money he has, and he's hoping so desperately his team is going to give him a 5v5 team fight where you can finally get on top of that Aphelios, get at him, you know, and actually do his job here. It's also a Sylas into Twisted Fate where there aren't a ton of other great ultimates he can use to steal to initiate the fight. As we watch this exchange one more time.
That's what we missed, actually. I think we missed that.
Yeah.
Just forcing the flash and the cleanse out of Ruler. Doran nearby here in the side brush. Just being a little bit cheeky, not going to go all in.
He's fallen so far behind that the Akali counter pick for the Gwen isn't as relevant. It's still relevant, but it isn't going to be domination we're seeing here from Doran. He hasn't flipped this one on its head and started to take a lot of control where he can threaten the Gwen out of lane and stuff like that just yet. But we are getting closer to those potential breaking points as he is going double mask here.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You know, we haven't seen this 1v1 in a bit, especially at this level, right, between Zeus and Doran. Gwen has seen so much play, and it's been kind of developed so many times. As T1, they're going to interrupt me. They really do hate this Akali. They do not want to see this one again, as trying to trade it back is Doran, but the fear is just a bit too much. Gets killed mid-ultimate. Not able to do anything.
Force of nature on Owner. Like, he's just not going to even take damage in this exchange. They give him the kill. He's 3-0-2. He's got Strike Breaker. And one way to make sure that the Akali never wins side lane is just to kill her repeatedly.
Guma has Flash and Gale Force, so he's totally fine.
And heal. And Bloodthirster.
And Tier 2 boots. Yeah. It's really fast.
Okay, he was not really in a whole lot of danger there. T1 50 seconds until this Drake.
Ooh, Gravitum comes in. Guma's got the speed up. And he's just threatening it. Doesn't even have to press the buttons. It's just making life difficult for Ruler, who's going to come over here and take the red buff, but it's not easy pickings for him. He's not the one being aggressive, looking for 1v2s anymore.
I'd like to see Gwen ultimate stolen.
I say that, and now Guma's just going to die. Alex not to flash.
Yeah, Alex not to flash there, and Genji are faster grouped up for the Drake now, plus the 80 carry is dead. I was going to say, going into this fight, I'd like to see the Gwen ultimate stolen, just so that we could see the power of this Sylas and the AP that he has here put on display with the Lucian damage. Doesn't matter anymore. Now he's just going to take the Nocturne ultimate away. He could turn the lights off here and could turn to rush towards Baron to prevent any sort of trading. Gumusi is not up for 15. T1 would love to trade this second Drake or third Drake for Genji here for Baron. But they're not going to get that chance. They don't have the damage without the Aphelios. And with the Nocturne ult stolen here for Chovy, he can collapse on them so fast. Turn the lights off, and
this is what the excessive side laning will also get you outside of gold. It is the level 16 for Chovy. He's just going to use Paranoia because why not?
His hijack is super fast, is what you're getting at here. He's got a Banshee's Veil now.
He has gone for this kind of tanky utility build that we have seen. And it just means that the Sylas is going to be insanely difficult to kill.
He's sticky. He's very difficult to peel for with Gumusi being the main target. Obviously, he doesn't have Cleanse this game because he took the heal in the Ignite with Keria so that he could actually end up winning out the 2v2 there. And, you know, you're not normally afraid of anything. You can't cleanse the Skarner ult, stuff like that. But you're going to feel a little bit worried when the build comes through with Everfrost and the gap close that Chovy has here on this Sylas. Is a little bit of a greedy positioning there. Farming in mid for Guma does get punished moments ago, which leads to Genji taking Soul Point. This really changes the equation here in terms of what this draft is capable of later on. Yeah, some side laning problems. Doran's 1 and 4. Sylas not going for a damage build. Lucian fairly low range against Nocturne and the Twisted Fate. But you can play it differently if every single time you hit somebody, you get that chained slow onto T1. You can play the game a lot slower. You don't actually have to literally all-in someone as the Lucian anymore.
Yeah, it is very true. T1 here just hanging together now that there is no objective. They have their Felios up, and I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't really tried to angle over towards the Baron and even try to use some of that side laning that they have. The ability to steal a lot of those worlds, or those global ultimates, I should say, from CHOVY, from that Sylas, could be part of the reason. Don't want to get caught in the side lane as a TF.
Yeah, especially because Zeus has teleport. Like, I absolutely agree with you that there could have been some posturing around at least vision control here. As Faker, with his Destiny Gate, can spot the entire enemy team, he's going to go ahead and use it towards top side here. Arnold will take the Spire away. But they are able to see, okay, well, Peanut's nearby here. Just going to look the side lane instead of actually forcing a fight. Felios on 2 items, 2.5, I guess I should say here. And it's a very tense moment until this Drake spawns, because yes, you can posture around Baron, but winning a team fight here is very difficult for the one who decides to actually call said team fight. So both teams are kind of slowly posturing on vision, but not really heavily committing. Because a lost fight here just swings the momentum into the winning team's favor so hard before that soul point comes up. Or rather, before the soul fight comes up, because Gen G is on soul point.
Oh, the culling is just gigantic into Keria. Of course, the Lulu not very tanky. And now 3 items finished for Ruler, who has got his IE up. And as I say that, so does Guma, just purchases it right now. It's very important timings before we have the next big fight.
Yeah, unfortunately for Ruler, taking away Keria's health bar here without an actual objective to fight over at the moment. Really unfortunate. Still can't start Baron at this stage. Unsuccessful at getting this turret, but you can see the damage is real. This is the power of Lucian. Once that IE is hit, he's got rapid fire cannon as well, so he can start this off from so far away. This is such a tense game. It is on a knife's edge.
Yeah. You see that T1 are looking for picks here, but Banshee's Veil available on CHOVY. Not even sure if you would want to go for him, as he is kind of a tank. He's got a lot of resistances, a lot of health in this one. It's going to be mostly up to Guma outside of the Gwen in these fights to do the majority of the damage.
Got the Everfrost out. Banshee's Veil gone too. So his cooldown's going to come up right before this fight, but still nice attempt there from T1. Maybe get something bigger. And Gen G so desperately want to force this turret down so they can actually try to control this choke point around Raptor Camp, but they don't have the range to hit this turret. They don't have waves. T1's wave clear is so good. With this Gwen here, can't actually siege it up.
Their highest range is Lucian, so outside of that and culling and abilities, they don't really have much to actually shell the turret. So a ton of posturing, a lot of K-ramming, a lot of denying vision. Yeah. Right now, Gen G in a much better position in terms of that vision.
It's really important to note that because it's soul point, Gen G, you know...
Oh, Doran again. They're trying to get on top of him, but this time he has a stopwatch.
But they are able to break it and get the Nami ult. This is a massive trade up for T1.
They also get the Paranoia out of CHOVY.
Yeah.
And I believe Owner used his as well. Either way, Peanut looking to come in from the side. Nice low onto multiple. But Glitterlance has been his bane in this game. He hates that ability. It's now trying to frontline. That's going to be another steal here from CHOVY.
This is the team fight setup here for Gen G. Doran on the flank angle. Faker is so extremely low.
Culling comes out again. The pull onto the Gwen. They're trying to 100 to 0 him, and they do. Peanut going to get the stun on Takuma as well, as he was trying to frontline and follow up the damage, but instead he's going down too. Gen G get a couple, and they will pick up the Hextech Soul.
And they will pick up Baron alongside of it very likely here. There's just no way for T1 to contest this. 35 seconds on Guma. CHOVY's going to take down the mid turret, and they can just rush right for it. Keria and Owner going to come over here, see what they can see, but there is no good news for the T1 fans right now in this game. Gen G now can slow every single member as they're going to look for a miracle steal. Wild Growth, not up.
There's Flash available. They just need to put down a ward at the exact right time. Looks like they don't have a ward. Keria's trying to get in there. They spot Owner, and this ain't happening. Owner's just going to have to run away. Not sure if he even gets out. He's got Faker in mid, so maybe, but still, it is Baron and Hextech Soul for Gen G. Not quite Exodia, but they have turned this game around for sure.
Owner is going to get caught here. Does try to spell shield. Who gets the kill? Going to be Ruler, of course. They don't give that one over to Doran. He's going to pick that up, put that extra money in his pocket. Already has 3 items. Going to be building for an insta-buy, actually, of the Soreldas there. Has so much money given over to him in this fight. As T1 here, Faker's extremely low. Peanut gets the grab, and that's it. Zeus is gone. So much of your damage and your longevity in this fight is in the Gwen actually hitting her Qs and her needlework in a line on the members of Gen G that have to run at you. But when she's just immediately removed, it doesn't matter. Calls out Gwen. Pulling Gwen, and they just turn on her. She's CC chained together, and then he just calls Aphelios. And he's like, we're going to eat, we're going to get to eat. He literally says eat in Korean, but we're going to take Drake right after this. And he just walks away before they even kill him, because he knows, like, take Drake, go Baron.
And now, like I said, it's not quite Exodia, but you do have insane amounts of pushing power. They don't really have Siege without this, these amount of buffs. So they are going to be very happy with this, trying to throw out some nice cullings, try to get T1 off of the turret to not be able to wave clear as they have before.
Look at that, just aggressively dashing forward here as Ruler. He has Gale Force, he has the culling you mentioned, has level 16 on his culling. So he can do a ton of damage with this, and it's on a fairly low cooldown at this stage.
Here comes Ruler again, insane amounts of poke damage. That is what the Lucian can do, and that is why he's so important for these sieges when they do go for them. So the damage is coming in, not quite able to chip down that turret just yet.
CHOVY level 18, all that extra side laning, all that extra farm. He hit 16 so fast, now he's maxed out. All of his abilities fully upgraded. Look at how quickly his hijack comes back. And he's looking for an angle here. If they get a pick, they can win the game off of this Baron. Still 45 seconds left on it. Weak Siege, as you mentioned, is using this cannon minion.
Okay, they're gonna move mid. And yeah, now that they don't have the Lucian abilities, it's kind of like, well, we either bully our way in or not, as that is going to be the paranoia available, as in goes everybody, the Akali and the Sylas, try to make their way, and that is what they had to do just to get the turret.
Yeah, they couldn't get the inhibitor either. Bottom inhibitor turret still stands here, and T1, very successful defense here of the Baron, but they have really good wave clear. They have a Gwen, and she could just delete mini waves, as you can see here.
And champions.
Yeah, and champions
almost
as well.
happened there, just randomly.
Well, when you're going that deep as Gen G, there's a pretty good chance she's looking for a few snips. And
yeah, would love a death cap on top of that build. That would really make her have disgusting damage.
I think, well, he's not building it right now, but eventually that might come through as the Void Staff for now still going to be very effective.
Oh no. Zeus caught again. I don't think there's much that Keria can do. Just delay the inevitable. As no escape for Zeus. He doesn't have any defensive summoners, and he's just a bit too far down the lane. It's a lot like what happened in the bottom river.
Peanut doesn't even have to use Impale. So they can actually look for another pick here. This is not the end of their aggression. They're going to look for an inhibitor.
The Gwen. I mean, if the Gwen doesn't exist in the game, then there's so much power lost on the side of T1 as Keria is just going to die. Culling gets huge value, and now you can go for the dives. Down goes the Aphelios. Gen G gonna pick up game number 1 here. 35 minutes to get it done. They hold strong, and a couple of impales is all they need to get the job done. Gen G gonna start off strong here on the red side.
Even though they were backed against the wall, Ruler was losing farm, he was losing his turret. We saw a dive bottom side, a dive